to bring people that are in comatose states out of those places? You take that position? Okay, so in virtue of what is their fact of the matter?
In virtue of the fact that there's a mind. I don't know.
You guys, really quickly, I don't mean to cut in. Do you know where Unifying is?
No, I don't. Also, why did he leave? Was that Dean?
I might go actually at some point. Like I do. Like, I haven't had food today.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can feel free to, like, whenever you want to, stop the conversation. Just let me know.
Unifying, where are you, bro?
Yeah, I think I'll head off. But good discussion. I still don't like sauce. But...
Yeah, it was a good discussion.
Damn, bro. Oh, you're smarter than I thought you were. Good for you.
Thank you.
I look, you want to see 11 versus Dean.
He got banned. Who banned him?
Dean got banned. Is he in a request? You should let him up. That'd be funny. He's in the comment, bro. Like, how many followers?
Why is he like freaking the fuck out? Like he doesn't ban people every day.
I'm saying, bro, you have like whenever he hosts lives, doesn't he have like 10K people or some shit? I know they're all in the bath, but why are you bitching out in the comment and it live with 72 people? Just relax.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Unifying is doing.
Yo, no troll, I got banned by the host, but Rise Breeze, your epistemological father, wants to sit you down. If you don't Rise Breeze, you are a runner. Breeze is in the queue, ready to debate you. This is it.
Isn't that your father?
Yes, really both of our fathers. Our father Breeze is in the queue to sit you down. Breeze is in the queue. Everybody watch K run from Breeze. Everybody watch K not Rise Breeze. He's not going to do it because he is terrified.
Bro, it's not even my life. What the fuck is that talking about?
He just came up here to announce that another man was your dad. Bro, what does he do? Grown ass man.
What does he mean? Watch K, like, what does he mean?
I actually came up here just to announce that someone else is your dad. Shit is crazy.
I don't Breach is coming up here for me.
Bro, I was coming up to clarify for Critic because you guys were talking. You guys were like kind of talking past each other. So like, wait, are you an inferentialist, by the way, about justification, like purely?
I don't know if I'd say like I'm a pure inferentialist.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say last time we talked, you're a Foundherentist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not like a pure. Okay, you don't take inferentialism. Yeah, because the critic person was saying like, well, first I wanted to clarify to them that symmetric explanatory relations don't typically lead to genuine explanation. Well, that's at least what's taken to be the case the majority of the time.
Yeah, that's what
I was just going to tell them.
That's what I was explaining to them.
Yeah, I was just going to tell them that. Oh, but I was going to talk to you if you were an inferentialist, though, because I was going to say, well, the Foundherentist likely isn't committed to inferentialism about justification. No,
because Foundherentism accepts experiential thesis as a form of evidence.
Right, exactly. Right, yeah, that because I saw you in the comments one time on I think it was a random video, but the video was essentially about, I think it was like Dean versus Divine Order, and I saw you comment that like non-propositional sources can't constitute a source of propositional justification.
You saw me say what?
Or something. If something's non-propositional, then it can't give you propositional justification.
That I said that?
Yeah, or something adjacent to that.
What was the context of me saying that? Like, why did I say that?
I think it was Dean talking about how he's a foundationalist, and then I think they might have talked about how you can have justification from something non-inferential or from something non-propositional, and then the comment was something along the lines of, you can't get propositional justification from something non-propositional.
Yeah, I still think that. Like, how do you get non-propositional? How can a non-propositional attitude participate in an inferential scheme?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the kind of reduction I give is to just go down the different views. So, first, I start out by asking, do you think that inference can manufacture justification, or do you only think that inference can transmit justification?
I think that in order for there to be an inference, that is going to be something which is coextensive with, and I like to use McDowell's terms, he calls it the logical space of reasons. Yeah. And so that's going to be something which is coextensive with like our inferential schemes. And so insofar as like the right types of mental attitudes are present, then they will be able to participate in those types of relations. But if it's the case that it's like a non-conceptual mental item, like a affinity or a non-inferential attitude, those types of things do not participate in those relations. Hence why non-props can't participate in propositional inferences.
Do you think that appearances are non-propositional?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And do you think that they could participate in those relations?
No, not coherently.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then I think that I would just say, like, if phenomenal conservatism were true, then that view is false. And I think that there's pretty good grounds for accepting phenomenal conservatism. The first thing I would just go over.
Private justification.
Okay. Wait. So you're saying, so is the claim that it can't participate in a sense of public justification, or it can privately justify, but it
I'm
can't?
saying like there's good grounds for PC if you take justification to be something that comes cheap.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you're saying that, so when you say coherent there, do you just mean that you're not restricting justification to be something cheap? So by coherent, you just mean it can coherently participate if it's the case that justification is something over and above a cheap notion?
No, by that, I just mean that it coheres with the space of reasons.
Okay. So then do you think that when you engage in going about explaining your private justification, that the whole space of reasons talk is embedded into that? Like when I say I'm justified in believing X, let's say I'm talking about it from the lens of a phenomenal conservatist. Do you think that there that I am talking about or referring to the space of reasons, or do you think I'm talking about something else?
Well, so here's what I would say. You can use concepts to talk about non-conceptual items, but it's not the case that non-conceptual items participate in those concepts or those conceptual relations. So like, for example, I can like use a language to express to you something that I otherwise might not be able to, right? Like, for example, like a feeling, or like, let's say if I love somebody or have like an affinity, an attraction or something, right? I might try to explain that to you like through words, but the words that I'm explaining to you are never going to really capture in essence the affinity that I had for that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you think that when people try to attempt to exhaust what they mean by talking about justification, if they use appearances, it's not the case that appearances actually participate in justificatory processes. It's just that they're describing it as such.
Correct. And that's because I think PLA is successful.
Okay. So wait, so you would say that if somebody says, okay, there's a box in front of me, it appears to be the case that there's a box in front of me absent Peter, that doesn't actually confer a sense of justification. It's just that they're describing it as such.
They would be talking to themselves as if they believed that they were justified in thinking that, but there's no real sense of justification.
Okay. Wait, so when you talk about, you said you're a Founderantist. I'm going to assume that the commitments you have with respect to that is that you cannot be optimally justified absent coherence, right?
What do you mean by optimally justified?
So what I would mean is that it's justified at a rate of higher than 0.5. So it's like more than 50% likely to believe something. So it's beyond a sufficient reason. Okay. Yeah. So do you think that the experiential C inputs can be generative of justification prior to that?
Prior to what?
Prior to optimal justification. If you think that optimal is like beyond 0.5, do you think that experiential C inputs independent of coherence can generate that sort of justification?
In a cheap sense, yeah.
Okay, wait, but those are non-propositional?
It depends on the type of experience you're talking about.
Okay, appearances?
Yes, they would be non-propositional.
Okay, yeah, well, not just if they're non-propositional, but if it's the case that despite the fact that they are non-propositional, they still give you justification. It's just not optimal justification. So they wouldn't give you justification to believe something beyond a rate of 0.5, but it would still give you it would still be generative of justification prior to that.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we agree then. I think we agree that they can generate justification. It's just that you think that when you start to talk about things like optimal justification, that they can't generate that. It needs to be in conjunction with coherence.
Right. So usually when I'm like, for example, in the comments, when I say something like, oh, how can non-propositional justification confer propositional? How can non-propositions confer propositional justification? I'm not just meaning any justification there, like a cheap justification. I'm meaning like the proper sense of justification.
Okay. So they still can stand in the space of reasons. It's not the case that they can stand in it with respect to generating optimal justification. It's just cheap.
It's just cheap. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was going to say, I really don't agree with the whole notion that Sellers put forth, where he says something along the lines of, well, the dilemma where you can say that if something is the type of thing with propositional content, then it's the thing that needs to be justified. And that if it isn't, then it's not the type of thing that can stand in the space of reasons. I think that appearances perfectly get around that issue. I think that appearances contain propositional justification, yet they're not the type of thing that needs to be justified themselves.
Appearances contain
Oh, sorry,
propositional
content,
justification.
propositional content, and then they confer that by proxy of that content. And it's not the case that they're the type of thing that stand in the relation to be justified, but they do the justifying by proxy of the propositional content, representational, and assertoric content that they have.
And you're still talking about justification in the weaker sense?
Yeah. Like if I was committed to a coherence condition with respect to that being a precondition of optimal justification, I might sign off on that. I actually talked to Eric about that though, and I'm kind of skeptical as to whether or not it's the case that is a precondition for optimal justification, just because there is like a sense of there being excess commitments, one, to a type of like optimal justification, two, to a precondition for this being, or to this being a precondition for said optimal justification. So I'm kind of skeptical as to whether or not I require that in order to exhaust what I mean by justification,
I mean,
or if
do
I
you
could
accept
just
PLA?
PLA.
Yeah, the
What do you
PLA,
mean by
private
PLA?
language argument.
Oh no. I'm not familiar with the private language argument. What's that?
It's just the idea that like, if a private language were to exist, it's either going to be something which is unintelligible or it's something that's meaningless. And a private language is going to be defined as like a type of sense relation that obtains between like an utterance and like an intention, where that thing in principle is not going to be epistemically knowable to any person outside of the agent, right? So when you're going to be talking about like this sort of like weaker sense of justification, if you're making the claim that appearances, I'm not sure why Cool Guy is saying that I conceded. I don't know what he thinks I conceded on. But if you're going to be making the claim that, in this weaker sense, we can have like appearances participate in the role of justification, I guess I would ask you, like, how are they participating in that role? In terms of like the propositional,
it's essentially like the right to say that something is reasonable. So the appearance absent defeater allows one to essentially say or facilitates the claim that X is reasonable to believe, independent of defeater. So it's like if somebody has.
Hold on a second. You're saying that the only reason why it's reasonable for us to make the claim that appearances have propositional content is just because somebody can just make the claim that it has propositional content?
Well, no. The claim that they have propositional content is different from the claim that they confer justification. Like it might be the case that you think appearances do have propositional content, but when you say that they confer justification, it's different from the claim that they have propositional content. The claim that they have propositional content is just about like its structure or it representing the world as being a particular way that can be assessed as either true or
Give me an
false.
example of like an appearance that has propositional content.
It seems to me that there's a box in front of me.
Okay, so what would be the
There is a box in front of me.
Okay, so you're saying that, and that you would be justified in believing this on the basis of the appearance itself?
Well, absent defeater, in conjunction with the fact that there's no defeater, sure. If you were a phenomenal conservatist, you would accept that sort of picture, of course, yeah.
Right, but for somebody who isn't, is there any motivation for that?
Well, you would give a self-defeat argument. You would say something like, you would say something like, if something cannot constitute a source of propositional justification, then it cannot constitute a source of doxastic justification. Would you accept that?
If something cannot constitute a source of propositional justification, then it cannot constitute a source of doxastic justification?
Yeah.
Is that just to say that doxastic justification is ontologically dependent on propositional justification?
Well, all instance of doxastic justification is an instance of propositional justification. The only distinction between doxastic and propositional justification would be the basing relation. So the difference between what it is to be propositionally justified and what it is to be doxastically justified is just to say that there is a sufficient reason present and that the belief in the case of doxastic justification is based on the sufficient reason. So rather than just having and possessing a sufficient reason, it's the basis of the belief where that reason is present. So yeah, I think that every instance of doxastic justification.
If you're talking about Bayesian relations are defined by how the reason becomes a ground for what the belief or the intention is that the agent has, correct?
Yeah, basis. So like the basis of the belief, correct?
So you're basically just saying that like there's going to be a Bayesian relation between the doxastic attitude and the propositional?
Well, no. It's a basing relation between the belief and the reason. So the reason in particular would be like, okay, let's say that I possess a sufficient reason to think that it's going to rain in 5 minutes. So let's say I look up in the sky and I see that there's rain clouds, right? And then by proxy of that understanding, I possess a sufficient reason, right? But let's say that the basis of that belief rather was something like I saw my grandmother do a rain dance, right? Well, that's not to say that I'm doxastically justified because now I have this like insufficient odd reason present as the basis of my belief. But I am propositionally justified because I do possess a sufficient reason. It's just not the basis of my belief.
Yeah, I guess like why would I accept any of this unless I just accept it?
That's just like how the term, no, that has nothing to do with being a phenomenal conservatist. That's like how the term propositional justification and how the term doxastic justification is used.
No, I'm not
that
talking
is like,
about like the definition that you gave. I'm talking about like the sort of motivation that you were given previously about PC.
Oh, the motivation for the fact that wait, are you asking for the motivation for the fact that appearances contain propositional content, or the
Yeah,
fact that
like
they confer justification?
I guess it's just not clear to me how appearances confer justification.
Oh, yeah. That's what step one of it was. So, do you accept premise one then, which is just that if X cannot constitute a source of propositional justification, then it cannot constitute a source of doxastic justification?
Given the way you define the term, sure.
Okay, yeah. So from there, then you want to say that I think that appearances act as the basis of all belief in the relevant sense. So I think it might be the case that there's like a few trivial exceptions where appearance doesn't act as the basis of belief, but this is like this and premise four are the contentious ones. This is why like I said, I am skeptical as to whether or not you require like a coherence condition for optimal justification. But what's your thoughts on whether or not it's the case that appearances act as the basis of belief in the relevant sense?
I guess I'd be interested to see what the motivation is for that.
Well, the motivation is kind of just like when you assess and you look inside, you turn your mind's eye and direct that consciousness inside, and you're like, okay, well, typically when it comes to even things like reductios, arguing ethics, the explanations for majority of the time when you talk about like reductios, especially, it typically does end up bottoming out in something like it seems to me that P, or it seems to us that P. And so I think that when I talk about the type of beliefs that I have, I like to talk about them in terms of appearance. Like I always say something like, or you'll note that when we use that language, I'll say, okay, it seems to me that P. Or when I'm talking about a reductio landing, I'll say it seems to me, or it seems that P. And I think that that's pretty much true. I'll make like a slight notium inference to say that I can't really find an example in which it doesn't bottom out in something like that at some point. And that there's an expectancy that if it were the case that this is not the relevant sense in which it acts as the basis of belief, that I would expect to see something like that.
Okay, I think there's an issue with the taxonomy here, so I'm just going to kind of briefly go over that before we move on. So
Okay.
You would agree with me that phenomenal conservatism itself can be characterized in two ways. The first one is what you just talked about, like if it seems to S that P, then like absence to defeaters, S thereby has at least some justification for believing that P. And then there's an alternative interpretation where all else being equal, it's reasonable to assume that things are the way that they appear, right? Now, when it comes to an appearance itself, appearances can be basically cashed out in multiple different ways. You can think about an appearance in terms of like just a mental state, and that will be defined as like a state where we assert that whenever we say like certain things, that it will seem obvious to you, or it won't seem obvious to you, where P is going to be like some proposition. And then you can also think about appearances as having propositional content, right? This is the sense of appearance that it seems like you're talking about. But you can also think about appearance in a broader sense, where it includes not just mental states or like apperceptions, but it also involves things like perception, introspection, memory, intellection, whatever, right?
Oh,
Like imagine if I
yeah.
said,
But I reject the fact that you can interpret appearances by any other means, except, especially if you're operating from the lens of a phenomenal conservatist. Like there's a very particular way that you determine what a seeming is, or an appearance rather, and it's just a non-doxastic propositional attitude with representational assertoric.
Well, I don't know what you mean by there's like a very specific way. There's like obviously different formulations that you can have of like what.
No, I said with respect to being a phenomenal conservatist, though, not just in general. Like I agree.
Well, even with respect to being a phenomenal conservatist, like there's obviously different formulations like under phenomenal conservatism of what a seeming is, of what an appearance is, of what like a defeater is, etc. Right? Like all these things have like their own different interpretations, right?
Wait, so as a phenomenal conservatist, like for example, some people take the view that appearances are belief. Do you think you could take that and be a phenomenal conservatist?
I think as to whether or not it would be successful version of phenomenal conservatism is different. But yes, there is a version of phenomenal conservatism where seemings are beliefs.
Wait, but that's like incompatible with the thesis.
That's whether or not it's incompatible is going to depend on what you think phenomenal conservatism should be as a
No,
theory.
I'm talking about like as per the literature, though. So when I say when I say I'm a phenomenal,
Are you denying that
conservativist-
there's literature where appearances are beliefs? Or excuse me,
No,
seemings
not
are
that
beliefs?
appearances are beliefs. It's the fact that appearances can act as beliefs,
Seemings.
and you can be. No, yeah. I'm not denying that people take the view that appearances are beliefs. It's just the fact that whether or not you can take the view that appearances are beliefs and still maintain the thesis of phenomenal conservatism, that's what's in question.
What do you think the thesis is?
Yeah, the thesis is to say that if you have a seeming that P, if it seems to S that P absent defeaters, then S is justified in believing P.
Right.
But there's like a fundamental issue with accepting that appearances are beliefs and being a phenomenal conservatist, which is that, well, as a foundationalist, you don't think that it goes prior. You don't think that there's like beliefs prior that justify X, and that they're not the type of things that stand in those relations. You don't make inferences from them. Do you think you can make inferences from appearances?
You're just talking about the fact that it becomes unsuccessful once you accept the fact that seemings act as beliefs. That's like
No, that's like it's incompatible with being a foundationalist in the relevant sense.
when you say it's incompatible, that's just to say that's
Yeah.
unsuccessful, like per the
No,
theory,
wait.
right?
Every time I say that something is incompatible, I'm just saying it's unsuccessful.
Obviously not. I'm talking about in this
No,
context.
no, okay.
I'm saying it's
Well, no,
unsuccessful per the theory.
the sense of incompatibility that I highlighted is not just that it's like an unsuccessful rendition of the theory. That might be a feature that's true. Like that might be the case that it is unsuccessful, but it's also
This seems like kind of unimportant. We're just kind of like having like a debate over whether it's like different terminologies, basically. So I don't really want to.
Well, but so the sense of incompatibility that I'm using is not just like, oh, it's not a successful account of the theory, but like to say that appearances can act as beliefs and you can still be a phenomenal conservatist. Like, sure, just like when I debated Lucario and he thinks that you could be a skeptic and an infinitist. Like, it might be the case that you think it's like logically possible in the most trivial way, but in the sense that I'm referring to it as, it's like a crazy person could say that. Sure.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
sure
no,
if
no, no.
anybody-
I'm not. Look, again, like you can sort of like do this intuition pump thing where you say like, yes, it's like a crazy view to hold. Like nobody's denying
Okay.
that, right? But the point is that like there are views under which seemings will count as beliefs.
Like, okay, so for example, like there's a view with respect to infinitism where you say you're a skeptic. Is that what you mean? Like, sure, that might be the case that there is one such view that Lucario Anders articulates in which you're an infinitist and a skeptic. Do you think that's like serious though?
I'm not talking about. I don't know what you mean by the skepticism stuff, but I don't even know why we're talking about this point so
Skeptic,
much.
just like a skeptic about justification, like to say
Yeah,
that you
I
don't
know.
think.
I'm saying I don't know what you're talking about the whole Lucario stuff, but the point that I'm making here is I don't even know why we're even arguing over this. This seems like
Well, because you were bringing up the point about how there is at least one such view in which you accept that you are a quote unquote phenomenal conservatist, and then you say, well, I also think that appearances are beliefs, and I'm saying I kind of reject that depending on what you mean by there is at least one such view, because for example, Lucario Anders.
Hold on a second. So okay. We could actually just talk about this. So you're saying there's some sort of incompatibility between being a phenomenal conservatist and accepting the view
with
that
respect to the foundationalist commitment. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So what exactly is the incompatibility? Just lay it out.
Well,
very
it's the
clearly.
fact that you think that the basis is still a belief. No foundationalist thinks that.
I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean?
Oh, okay, so you would agree that when you say you're a foundationalist, when you say basic beliefs, there's nothing prior to that is a belief that justifies it, correct?
So when you say that there's a basic belief,
Yes, that's not justified by prior beliefs, correct?
yeah, basic beliefs don't have any
Okay.
further justification. Yeah.
Right, well, not in the form of beliefs. They do have further justification, just not in the form of beliefs.
Hold on a second. Do you think that do you think all phenomenal conservatists have the same account of fundamentality?
Well, no, it's the same account of what a basic belief is. So foundationalists maintain what a basic belief is. It's a belief that's not
basic
justified by
belief.
inference.
Yes, they accept the fact that there are basic beliefs, but you understand they
Right.
have different accounts of fundamentality for
Like what it means
basic-
for a belief to be basic? Wait, what sense of basic belief includes the fact that it's justified by other beliefs?
I'm not talking. That's not what I said.
Wait, that would actually be like the only thing to justify the claim that you could be a quote unquote phenomenal conservatist and think that it's the case that there's beliefs prior that justify those sorts of things, and that so by appearance you could mean belief and still be a phenomenal conservatist.
I didn't make that claim either. I'm asking you a question about the claim that you made about its incompatibility.
No, I'm saying that's a requirement of the claim prior. So the claim prior is that
You're saying that it's required for somebody to prove the claim that these two things are compatible, but nobody's making the claim that they are compatible. I'm questioning the claim that you're making about it being incompatible.
wait, so you didn't make the claim that it's the case that you can be a phenomenal conservatist and read appearances as beliefs?
I said there's an interpretation of such.
Right. And
I
that's
didn't make a
what the question
comment.
is.
I didn't make a comment on whether it's a successful or unsuccessful interpretation this whole time.
Well, we agree on the notion of it being unsuccessful. What we're talking about is the incompatibility with respect to being a foundationalist.
Right. So
I am-
nobody's
so
affirming
we're
the
assessing
claim
is-
that it is successful or not, or nobody's talking about that. We're talking
No,
about your
success.
claim about
Remember,
it.
we kind of differentiated between whatever's meant by success and incompatibility. And I'm saying that with respect to compatibility, if you're a foundationalist, you don't think that there's prior quote unquote beliefs that act in those
if-
relations to justify basic
if you're a
beliefs.
certain sort of foundationalist, I agree with you. Yes, right. But
Wait,
you
what
also
sort of
agree.
foundationalist thinks that you can justify basic beliefs by proxy of beliefs?
Why would that? Okay, so are you saying is the reason why you're asking that question is because once you accept the fact that seemings are beliefs, then they would have to basically
You wouldn't be a
justify
foundationalist anymore.
beliefs?
If it's the case that seemings are acting as the quote unquote non-inferential justification, well then you wouldn't be saying that they're basic. The beliefs that they justify are basic.
Why
Because
couldn't-
what would be
wait, hold on,
basic?
hold on,
would
hold on a
be
second. Hold on a second. So, do you think that somebody saying that the seemings are beliefs is identical to saying that, or excuse me, that why couldn't they just appeal to like second order beliefs and then have some different commitment to the fundamental beliefs?
Like appeal to what? The fact that appearances are justifying second order beliefs? You could say that, but you would just say that the justification still isn't in the form of belief. It would be a non-inferential higher order seeming. Humer talks about this when he talks about his response to McCain and Moretti. Humer discusses how you can have higher order beliefs that are justified by higher order seemings, but that doesn't mean that the appearances are still beliefs. They would still be non-inferential in the relevant sense, especially if you agree, which, by the way, I can send you like an unreleased chapter by Humer he calls phenomenal conservatism a type of foundationalism or a version of
What is
foundationalism.
that? What is that?
So,
What does that mean? Second order what?
second order belief.
No. You
Belief about
said
your beliefs?
you said something else previously. I brought up the idea of second order belief, but you said something else.
Yeah.
before that.
Oh, higher order seemings,
No, you said something. You said second order something.
second order appearances. Maybe I said higher order beliefs, higher order
Okay,
appearances. That's all I said.
Remember when I made the claim that like somebody could appeal to, like when they make the claim that seemings are beliefs, they could just say that
Okay.
like, seemings are beliefs in the second order sense, but then they could
Seemings are beliefs in a second order sense. So your appearances are just second order beliefs. So they're beliefs about your beliefs. That's not true. They're not doxastic.
Wait, hold on a second. What do you mean they're not doxastic?
Meaning they aren't belief based attitudes. They're non doxastic attitudes.
Second order beliefs can't be belief based.
Wait. They are beliefs about your beliefs. That's like trivially true of what it means for it to be a second order belief. They're beliefs about your first order beliefs.
Right, but you just said it's not belief based. How are
Yeah, it's
second
not a
order
belief.
beliefs
Like in the sense that a
non-doxastic?
doxastic attitude, because doxastic just means related to belief, right? So when I say, if I say something
Right,
like,
wait, hold on,
I
but
have
you
a
said
doxastic attitude.
Are you making the claim that second order beliefs are non-doxastic?
No, I'm saying that they are, of course, doxastic.
Okay, it sounded like you said they're not doxastic.
No, I would never say something as dumb as that. I'm saying that appearances aren't the sort of thing that can be categorized as a second order belief, insofar as it's the case that they are doxastic and appearances are non-doxastic. That's the issue. So when you say, oh, could they formulate it in a way as such? I'm like, no. With respect to the foundationalist commitments, they couldn't.
Appearances
Why would they
can
do
be
that?
second order.
No. They can be second order. They're just not second order beliefs. They can be second order appearance. It's like I can have a higher order belief, and the basis of that could be a higher order appearance. But
Why
that's not
can't
to
the
say that the
seeming?
appearance
Why
is a
can't the
belief,
seeming? Why can't the seeming be a second order belief?
because it's not doxastic and they are doxastic.
Okay.
That's like a big problem. You agreed with me, right? That's like to say that something is doxastic and then to say that that same thing is not. That would be problematic.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay. Well, anyways, I think that the crowd has had enough of that one. If you want to continue the conversation later, you have to go. It's hot as fuck. Oh, well, we live close to each other, but it's hot as fuck right now, bro. But yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to continue talking later, we definitely can, bro.
Let me know when.
I bet. See you, bro.